Yeah. All right. What is going on, guys? This is the Daily Roto Sharks live NFL show for week 3 of the NFL season. I am your host, Evan Cheney,
All
and
right, what is
today
going?
I am joined by uh, Ben X Ben over there for a second, and I just realized I sound silly. But I am joined today by my co-host Ben Jolson here. He goes by xBenJamminx on Twitter and both FanDuel and DraftKings. How you doing tonight, Ben? Awesome. Yeah, I'm super pumped again. Some week 3 stuff. I'm glad my internet conspiracy has been solved. All it took was a solid unplugging and replugging back in of the router a second time because I did it the first time it wasn't working, but the
The
second
second
time
time
I
I
did
did
it,
it,
like at some
some
point
point
this
this
morning,
morning,
it
it
got
got
done.
done.
So
So
I'm
I'm
thankful to
thankful to
be
be
on
on
here
here
tonight
tonight
with
with
you
you
guys.
guys.
And
And
let's
let's
just
just
dive
dive
into
into
our
our
let's just
just
dive
dive
into
into
our
our
first
first
game
game
of
of
the
the
slate.
slate.
Cardinals
Cardinals
going
going
up
up
against the
against the
Buffalo
Buffalo
Bills.
Bills.
This
This
seems to
seems
be
to
a
be a
very
very
interesting
interesting
game
game
here.
here.
Right
Right
now,
now,
the
the
Cardinals are
Cardinals are
favored
favored
by
by
three
three
and a
and a
half
half
with a
with a
47
47
point
point
total
total
on the
on the
game
game
as we
as we
speak.
speak.
And
And
let's
let's
look
look
at
at
this
this
Arizona
Arizona
Cardinals
Cardinals
offense
offense
first.
first.
They've
They've
been,
been,
you
you
know,
know,
last
their
their
first game against the Patriots, they really weren't, the on the hottest pace. But last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they scored 40 points as a team. It was just great to watch that. But going to Buffalo, Ben, I don't know, shaky situation for the Arizona Cardinals offense. Weigh in on some of these options that you might be looking at here for this week.
Um, okay, so I'm always on Larry Fitzgerald for for years he's just been one of my favorite players. I think he has the best hands in the game. We saw that Buffalo Bills, they couldn't even stop Mike Wallace. So I think out of all the players on the receiving end, Larry Fitzgerald is the one that I would be looking at. And David Johnson, I think this is a prime spot for him to really explode. We haven't seen him go off yet, and I mean the Bills just haven't been a great defense, especially since Rex Ryan's gotten there. He actually took over and they got worse. But I really don't see myself picking anybody on their offense going against Arizona because Arizona is just stud.
Yeah, I mean, especially what we saw last week, last Thursday with Buffalo, how they allowed, 37 points against the Jets. Um, definitely some signs of a weakening defense for the Bucs. Personally, of course, I like Larry Fitzgerald, as you were talking about. I was on him for the week. With a knee issue. He did practice fully today, though. Um, this is my concerns. He's 6,900 on DraftKings, 7,600 on FanDuel. I could certainly get behind the play there. David Johnson, also like the spot for him. Down and Michael Floyd as a two wide receiver stack. If you're stacking Carson Palmer and then two wide receivers. Of course, one being Larry Fitzgerald, but the second one, you really can't go wrong with either of these guys. I mean, Michael Floyd, he's seeing a decent amount of targets. He saw 6 Buccaneers last week, which is an 8 yards, but he did score a touchdown. John Brown, 3 targets, but I don't know. I think it'd be the spot for finally see some positive production for this week.
You're lagging a little bit. That's all right. Okay, so
Yeah.
I mean the passing offense, it's been pretty prolific since last year, but the only person I really would be on is Larry Fitzgerald. We don't really see a lot of targets for the other Arizona players in general. We have Michael Floyd. He has 13 total targets, and John Brown actually only has a total of 7 through 2 weeks. So that's not really something to be excited about. And on the other side of the ball, when you're looking at Buffalo, I mean, Sammy Watkins is leading the team with 11 total targets in 2 games, but he's hurting. Next is Charles Clay and LaShawn McCoy. So there's really nothing to be excited about over there. So I'm not on Buffalo at all. I'll be on a little bit of Carson Palmer with Larry Fitzgerald and maybe some solo David Johnson.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Buffalo offense, there's not much to get behind. And defense is pretty solid. They're only implied to score 21 points right now. That's something that I like to see. Sammy Watkins, like you said, he is dealing with issues with the foot. He missed practice both yesterday and today, Wednesday and Thursday, and yeah, it's not a situation that I really want to attack. It is not a viable option at all. Charles Clay, option. I just can't these Buffalo Bills offensive players, which just makes me like the defense.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would just
how you
probably
feel?
move on. I mean, I don't even, I'm not going to consider Buffalo. Arizona, I'd prefer them at home, but definitely see them being a viable defense. But there are a few others that I like more this week.
I could certainly. Moving on to our next game here, we have the Oakland Raiders going up against the Tennessee. Right now, the Titans are favored by 2 points as of now, with a total of 47 in that game. Look at the Oakland Raiders offense. They do have, they do show some definite promise with option for the week.
Yeah, for
Other
sure.
guys, I mean, Michael Crabtree, he only saw 5 targets against the Falcons, but he saw 9. He saw 9 targets against the Saints. Touchdown last week, though, even though he did see 5 targets. So, and then Amari Cooper, who has seen 20 targets through the first 2 games, 11 week 1, 9 in week 2. So Derek Carr is certainly trying to even-ish distribution targets there. And then Alford this week as well. He saw 7 targets Falcons, had 6 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. I just really like Clive Walford this week in the matchup where he's obviously going to be low-owned. And at 2,800 on DraftKings and 5,000 on FanDuel, I don't think you can really go wrong with a guy like Clive Walford this week, this Raiders offense.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, I mean, first of all, both of the tight ends in this game have really good matchups, but they also have very similar numbers on the season. They both have 9 catches, and Clive Walford actually has 1 more target than Delaney, and that's not what we're used to seeing with Delaney. We would expect him to have more targets than that, especially when you have Mariota, who really has just locked on to Tajay Sharp. Delaney Walker was the guy last year because, I mean, you had Kendall Wright as the number 1. He wasn't really anything special. So, I mean, yeah, I definitely like Clive Walford as a low-owned play. And if I was going to stack, Derek Carr with Walford, Clive Walford or something like that, I'd probably have, Amari or Crabtree, and then I'd also put Tajay Sharp for the other side of the ball to get a nice opponent stack in there.
Oh, yeah, I mean, certainly adding to an Oakland Raiders stack be one of the smarter contrarian moves that you can make this week. And then looking at the other side of the ball, Raiders defense has been atrocious through 2 weeks. Up a ton of points to the Saints week 1, giving up like 35 points last week to the Falcons. It's not an optimal situation for the Raiders defense. I thought they were going to improve, but they really haven't. So, but look at this Tennessee Titans offense here. Delanie Walker is questionable for this week. He has something going on with his hamstring. Practice Wednesday, participated on a limited basis on Thursday.
You're lagging
Watch out
so
for
much.
that.
I'm trying to listen. You're lagging
What's
a
that?
lot. It's lagging a lot. I could still hear you, but it's just breaking up a little bit. But yeah, certainly. I mean, what we've seen at least through the season is the Raiders have actually let up the most fantasy points to wide receivers. It's pretty crazy. They've let up 43 points to wide receivers per game, and so I love Tajay Sharp this week. I think you could also lump Delaney in there as well. They've been a little bit better, but they've still been letting up a decent amount of yards and a touchdown already. So I definitely I like Tajay Sharp and Mariota. I liked them last week. I actually in our Slack chat I had a value stack that I was telling them about with Mariota, Andre Johnson, and Delaney Walker. So I would definitely throw Tajay Sharp in there. I don't know about Andre Johnson again this week, but I mean, I feel like Tennessee is going to go underowned. This game may be a potential shootout that people won't really be on.
I can fully agree with that. I mean, as far as Andre Johnson is concerned, from what I'm seeing Harry Douglas as the number 3 receiver. So I don't know what the deal is there with Andre Johnson, but Harry Douglas right now seems to be the number 3 receiver for the Titans right now. I wouldn't consider him at all, even at that $3K price tag. But Tajay Sharp, I mean, he saw 11 targets week 1, 7 targets week 2, and then Rashard Matthews even. I mean, he saw 4 targets week 1 with 6 targets week 2. Seems to be more involved in the offense. DeMarco Murray's even getting involved. He saw 7 targets last week, caught 7 for 56 yards, and then he rushed the ball 12 times for 89 yards. So Murray in Tennessee is certainly getting more opportunities than my Eagles allowed him to get last season. And I'm kind of jealous right now. I mean, I know the Titans are bad, but what they're getting out of DeMarco Murray.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
Moving on to our next game here, we have. What was that? I thought you said something.
You're good.
Yeah, so moving on to our next game here, we have the Washington Redskins going up against the New York Giants. Right now, the Giants are favored by 4.5 points with a total of 46.5 as we speak for this game. And I can kind of agree with that. I mean, public perception might say otherwise of how the game script is going to be for this game, but I don't know. I think I can agree with Vegas here. The Redskins just haven't looked great in the first 2 weeks. But look at this Redskins offense here. Right now, Deshaun Jackson is questionable. He returned to practice on Thursday. He's had some issues with both his knee and his ankle that he injured in the third quarter of last week's game against the Cowboys. But if Deshaun Jackson is healthy and he can kind of get over these little issues here that's going on with him, I kind of like him as a GPP play. I know the Giants defense has gotten much better for this season. They've been doing very well in the first 2 games, but a guy like Deshaun Jackson, who has big play upside like that, still worth a play. But other than that, I mean, Jordan Reed might be viable. Obviously, he's very involved in that offense, but I don't know. I just don't like the play. I just don't like any of these Redskins.
No, I'm not a big fan of them. The only person that I'd really be looking at would probably be Jordan Reed. I was actually looking it up earlier, and Deshaun Jackson, he doesn't do well against the Giants career-wise. He had that one really known about punt return for a touchdown that kind of screwed us over, but he doesn't really do well historically against the Giants. So he's not someone I'd be looking at. I mean, Kirk Cousins, he only has 1 touchdown passing in 2 games, and he's had 89 pass attempts to Eli's 69, and Eli has 3 passing touchdowns. Despite that game with New Orleans, we all thought was going to be a shootout. But yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Vegas. I think that the Giants are the favorites. I think they should win. They have a pretty good matchup. Their defense has gotten better. I'm not on Rashad Jennings. He just hasn't proven himself at all to me. He has 100 rushing yards on the season, but I think it's gonna be interesting watching Odell Beckham and Josh Norman go against each other. So with that said, Shepard and Cruz are going to be on my radar big time this week, and I'm not really going to be on Beckham. I may have some small exposure to him in GPPs, but I think that Josh Norman's at the top of his game. Beckham's still a stud, but I'd rather look around that price range for a different opportunity and use Shepard and Cruz.
Yeah, I mean the coaching staff in Washington is finally figuring out how to play, how to utilize Josh Norman. He said that Josh Norman is going to shadow Odell Beckham Jr.
As long as he's not in the slot.
Because
if he goes in the slot, he's not following him.
I mean, he has just been getting mauled. Granted,
who
having some of these matchups that he's had.
Who? Norman?
Rashard Breeland.
Oh, Breeland.
He's just been getting. I mean, when you have Antonio Brown and Des Bryant 2 weeks of the season, do you really want Odell as your third week? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's tough.
Finally, they're wisening up and saying, oh, maybe we should put one of the NFL's best corners on one of the NFL's best receivers. They're finally game planning over there. But because that is the case, will be shadowing Odell Beckham Jr. I can still get behind OBJ in tournaments, but I'm not as excited on him that I don't know. It's just not. It doesn't excite me because I don't think the big play upside will be there as much.
I mean, listen, Shepard's got better numbers on the season than Beckham does so far on 7 less targets. So I'm definitely going to be paying down for Shepard this week. Victor Cruz has still been doing well. He actually has a touchdown. He has the same amount of targets as Shepard, but it seems that Shepard's just he's just in a really good spot. Yeah, I mean either one of them, honestly, but I mean Cruz is actually $700 cheaper, so I'll be all over Cruz and Shepard this week.
Yeah, there is certainly reason to do that. I mean, targets last week. Shepard saw 8 targets last week. Odell Beckham Jr. saw 11 targets. Yeah, I mean that's a very good spot to get on there.
Yeah, they both had the same amount of targets both games.
Exactly. Looking at our next game here, which I don't think there will be a whole lot to talk about, but we'll see. We have the Cleveland Browns going up against the Miami Dolphins. This is going to be a terrible game to watch. Currently has a total. This is with the Dolphins favored by 10. I'm not touching the Cleveland offense. I refuse.
Yeah, I don't go anywhere near it.
No, I just Dolphins defense. That's all I'm gonna say to that. But looking at the Dolphins offense here, maybe Jarvis Landry. Arian Foster is questionable with a groin injury. He hasn't practiced all week, it seems. Of course, today being Thursday, he did not practice today either. And apparently there's very little likelihood of Arian Foster playing this week. So that'll diminish the offense even more for Miami. And I don't know why they're even favored projected to score 26.3 points this week.
Miami?
Vegas. Yeah, Miami.
Oh, I mean, if there's a lot of people on Miami this week. They're going to be not popular to the public, but popular to the DFS touts. You're going to see a lot of Jordan Cameron, Landry. You're going to see some Stills and Devontae Parker. You may even get some Jordan Cameron revenge game in here. I don't know if you noticed that. I think it's an interesting matchup for Miami, even on the defensive side. I think they're definitely in a good spot. They're at home. Everybody plays better at home, especially when you're a big favorite. You have a quarterback that's I don't even know if he knows how to play quarterback. Well, we gotta see, but I mean you could look at Jay Ajayi if you think he's going to get the carries. I'm not really sure. He may get like 10 to 12, and they may mix in some Drake. But yeah, I'm all over these receivers. I like them a lot. I like Landry just in general. They have the best matchup on the board. You have Parker. He came out of nowhere with 13 targets in week 2, and I mean Kenny Stills is always a boomer bust guy, but I think Parker's going to take him out. So I like Landry a lot, Parker for GPP, and even a little bit of a revenge game in Jordan Cameron in there. I don't know if I would go. I'm not too high on Tannehill for throwing touchdowns. I think maybe he'll get 2, but I like the guys for PPR and potential receptions.
See, I understand your argument completely. I can see exactly why you would say what you're saying. But there are just some parts of this Dolphins offense that just doesn't look right.
It never does. It never does. Like, because Tannehill's not even, he's a wide receiver turned quarterback, and like you just never really expect it to do well, but they do well. Like Tannehill has actually been playing pretty good. He has 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. So, I mean, he has 74 pass attempts and completing 65% of them. That's pretty good to start the year for him. So I definitely see him getting over 35 attempts again. The Browns are just going to be throwing the ball for their life. So I like the defense a lot and mixing and matching this team, but they're not my top stacks.
Nah, but again, I mean, I understand the argument. The Browns' defense is terrible. Dolphins' offense is kind of looking decent. Yeah, the argument there.
I'm not super confident in them, but you'll see people on them this week.
Yeah, definitely not my favorite spot, but a spot to look at. Looking at our next game here, we have the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ravens currently favored by 1.5. And this game has a 47.5 point total. This can also be a sneaky shootout game because you have 2 teams that really don't have that much of a developed defense. Obviously, there's a huge public perception of the Ravens having a great defense from years past, but that's just not the case this year. But we'll get to that when we talk about the Jaguars offense. Right now, we talk about the Ravens offense, and there's certainly some guys worth looking at here. I mean, it's just... Yeah, he's certainly something. He saw 12 targets last week against the Browns, caught 9 of them for 102 yards. Obviously, it was the Cleveland Browns, so all of that should be taken with a grain of salt. But still, the fact that Dennis Pitta saw 12 last week, obviously it still shows that Joe Flacco and Dennis Pitta still have that connection. So I like Dennis Pitta, especially on DraftKings, where he's 3,400 and it's a PPR format. I love Dennis Pitta there for that reason. I also like Steve Smith. I also like Steve Smith a lot. He saw 6 targets last week, which isn't a lot. Only caught 3 of them for 64 yards, but he has that big play upside. And Mike Wallace as well. Also saw 6 targets last week. Caught 4 catches for 41 yards, but he scored 2 touchdowns. Obviously a very volatile player. The textbook definition of volatility, but I don't know. I can get behind the spot against what I don't think to be a very strong Jaguars defense.
Yeah, man. When I was making lineups, I was popping all over Baltimore. It's pretty crazy. I'm never usually on them, but we know that they like to throw the ball a lot more than they have in years past. And Jacksonville, they were supposed to be a better defense this year, but they're really not doing that good. I think that with Flacco saying that he wants to keep feeding the ball to Wallace, that I'm going to be all over Flacco, Wallace, and Dennis Pitta this week. So I'm not going to be touching the running backs there. I drafted Steve Smith in a couple season-long leagues. I just wanted to see that fire one last time, but I don't know. He may not have it this year, so I'll have to wait and see for his blow up. But Mike Wallace, he has 3 touchdowns already, and they're going to keep feeding him. So I like him and Pitta, Flacco, him and Pitta as I wouldn't say a low owned stack, but they're not going to be high owned. So they're going to be middle of the pack, and I like that a lot. But I want to talk about.
Yeah,
Jacksonville.
There's certainly a lot to talk about the Ravens, but Jaguars offense is very intriguing. I mean, last week they got by the San Diego Chargers, only scored 7 points in a garbage time touchdown. That wasn't really fantasy relevant to anyone really. But I don't know. This week, they're back. They're at home. Finally, playing a game at home there. I don't know why I said finally. They've played home games. But they're going up against a poor Baltimore Ravens defense that has shown some signs of just not being good. So, some of the guys I kind of want to target here, I like Ashley. I mean, he's just a guy I love. He's a Penn State guy. He saw 15 targets week 1, but only saw 5 targets week 2. I don't know if that may have been like a reasoning for that may have been, but I mean, if he saw 15 targets in week 1 against the Packers, I don't know. I just really like that spot for him. He's just, I don't know. Just the opportunities are there. Allen Hurns is okay. He did see 10 targets last week, so obviously a spot worth looking at there. Julius Thomas, good spot for him. He's a guy that certainly gets the opportunities. But TJ Yeldon is a guy that I'm not going to be on, especially with Chris Ivory looking like he's for this week. Robinson and Hurns are the 2 guys I really like for this Jaguars offense today, or for this week.
Yeah, I mean, people were on Hurns a lot last year, and for good reason towards the end of the season. But I think the play here is Julius Thomas. I think the Allen Robinson Julius Thomas stack is going to be a real nice stack. But what I would do is I would stack either like Bortles, Robinson, Julius Thomas, and Mike Wallace, or Flacco, Mike Wallace, Dennis Pitta, and Allen Robinson. So I like both of those stacks, and I'll be on both of them this week. And I think stacking, even if you wanted to stack this game, I think that would be a pretty good idea. It's going to be in Jacksonville. It's probably going to be nice out, so I think it's a good spot for hitting the over.
Yeah, that's certainly something worth looking at. Just that whole game in general.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool situation there. Just looking at the offenses. Moving on to our next game here, we have the Detroit Lions going up against the Green Bay Packers. Right now, the Packers are favored by 7.5 points, with a total of 47 in this game right now. Looking at this Lions offense first, it's hard to ignore Marvin Jones, who right now is 6,200 on DraftKings, 6,900 on FanDuel. Has seen 21 targets throughout the first 2 games of the season. Has yet to score a touchdown, but still, I mean, he scored 12.5 DraftKings points week 1, 22.8 DraftKings points week 2, 21 targets. It was pretty even through those first 2 games, 10 in the first game, 11 in the second game. So it's hard to ignore Marvin Jones this week. Really like the play for him there, especially on a PPR site. Theo Riddick, I love it, especially with Amir Abdullah some time now. He didn't have a strong game last week against the Titans. Only had 37 rushing yards and 28 receiving yards for 4 catches. Didn't score a touchdown, but I don't know. I like the pick. And Quan Bolden, he's getting a good amount of targets. Ben, what do you think for this week for this Lions offense?
I like it. I think that a lot of people are going to be on Theo Riddick. He's going to be one of those, Spencer Ware type ownerships at almost minimum price. Well, not. I mean, on FanDuel he's 64, so that's not minimum, but that's on the lower end for most running backs. But you're gonna have Dwayne Washington stepping in for goal line work behind him, and I picked this guy up in almost every season-long league I have. I think he's going to get some run, probably get around 10 carries or touches at least, and if he may be able to vulture a touchdown or 2. So I'll be on Riddick a little bit, but I think his price is a little bit high for me on FanDuel, but PPR on DraftKings, I could see it. Marvin Jones is one of 8 wide receivers to be over 200 yards, and he has over 20 targets. So I definitely see using him. He's 6,900. So if you wanted to do a Stafford, Marvin Jones, and Jordy Nelson stack, it's not going to be that expensive, and there's a lot of upside to it. I really don't see myself using anyone else in this game, except maybe Ebron. I like Ebron, so if he's healthy and he's good to go, I could see myself throwing in Ebron. Tate is someone I use more for cash games. Marvin Jones, I think, is a little more GPP in my opinion, so that's how I would classify those 2 plays.
Yeah, I certainly get behind that. Looking at the Green Bay Packers offense here, also some targets worth looking at. The Lions defense has had its moments where it shined, but it had its moments, this albeit in a very small sample size, in which they haven't looked so good. Week 1 they dominated, or they got dominated against Andrew Luck and the Colts, but then last week, for the most part, against the Titans, they held Marcus Mariota and the Titans offense in check, but held him in check for a while.
Yeah, that's a different league of quarterback. You know what I'm saying? When you're not comparing Mariota to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that kind of ties into my point here, to where Aaron Rodgers is the guy here, of course, for the elite quarterback, and he has some elite targets here, especially Jordy Nelson, who saw 11 targets last week against the Minnesota Vikings, only caught 5 of them, though, for 73 yards and a touchdown. Nelson here at 7,400 is a tournament play. Might be a little bit too rich for me on FanDuel at 8,300. But I don't know. That's for you. That's for FanDuel players to decide.
That's up there,
Randall
but
Cobb, I can also get behind him.
Jordy's Jordy, man. I think people are going to be off Jordy because they've heard about Darius Slay or whatever. But I mean the price is up there, but there's not many wide receivers who have as much upside as him when he's healthy. So I mean, already having 2 touchdowns on the season, 20 targets, I think he's going to be lower owned than he should be this week, and I could definitely see myself doing a Detroit Green Bay stack with Stafford and Jones and Nelson, or Aaron Rodgers, Nelson and Jones, or something like that. So I like those 2 matchups as well.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely something worth looking at there. Eddie Lacy, I'm not a huge fan of at this point. Obviously, I mean, new quote unquote fit and improved Eddie Lacy.
Yeah, I mean, he's only got 26 carries through 2 games.
Yeah, it's not a situation that I find optimal, or just anything worth taking advantage of. It's just not. Moving on to our next game here, we have the Denver Broncos going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Right now, the Bengals are favored by 3.5 points, which I find somewhat shocking, but at the same time, not really. Total rate, which is pretty low.
Yeah, that total is real low. I mean, I don't see Cincinnati walking out of this with a W. Even with Simeon at quarterback, I mean, their defense is just so good, and Cincinnati, I mean, they're good against the pass, but they're not great against the run, and I think they're just going to keep banging it with C.J. Anderson. But this isn't a fantasy gold game. I'm not going to be on this game really at all. So I would use Denver defense. I mean, AJ Green has a narrative week, and I was so all over him until I realized he was playing Denver. His baby was just born, so he wasn't going to play in the game. But since his baby was already born, now he could play, and he's going to be trying to ball out. And his price went down $600 this past week, but I mean, Denver's Denver.
Yeah, but I do like the idea of using the AJ Green narrative there. But yeah, for Denver, the only guys that I like are C.J. Anderson and the Denver Broncos defense. And then for the Cincinnati Bengals, again, really the only guy I can like here is A.J. Green, solely based on narrative street and possible upside. But really, this game is just something you kind of have to brush over when it comes to the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Defenses for this game, and then
yeah, I mean, Andy Dalton has 84 pass attempts, which is, let's see, that's top 7 in the league right now. That's a ton. But I don't see him being productive with them, and that's the point this week. So I'm not really on him. He only has 2 passing touchdowns so far, and I don't think he's going to be able to double that against Denver.
Exactly. Looking at our next game here, we have the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Carolina Panthers, which it's not the most interesting game fantasy-wise, but it is a very interesting game to watch when it comes to real-life football, the actual standings in the NFC, stuff like that. I just find it interesting in that regard.
Yeah, for sure.
But fantasy-wise, but fantasy-wise, it's not all that exciting. Carolina's right now favored by 7 points. The game has a total of 43 at the moment. And Vikings offense. I mean, Jerick McKinnon's obviously going to get a bulk of those the vast bulk of those carries. And he does have PPR upside, but not.
I don't think he's going to get the vast majority. I think there's going to be more of a split than people think, because they do really like Asiata. He's a much better pass blocker, and they're not really going to want to get Bradford hurt. So when they are trying to pass, I think they're going to bring him in, and he's going to get goal line work. So I don't think it's going to be as close of a split as people think. I like McKinnon a lot, but he, as explosive and athletic as he is, he's not that big of a guy. And Carolina, they have the fastest linebackers in the league, so he's not going to be able to outrun him, and he's not going to be able to power through him. So I am completely off the Minnesota offense, except for potentially Diggs on DraftKings. What's his price over there?
Yeah, he's only 50. His price didn't change from last week.
He scored
36 point. Yeah, he scored 36.2 fantasy points last week on DraftKings, and he was $5,100 then. And this week he's $5,100 again. Just because of the algorithm.
Yeah, I mean, he's 6,400 on. His price actually went down $100 on FanDuel, which is crazy.
I mean, going up against the Carolina, the thing is, the Panthers don't have a great pass defense. If you watched any bit of that San Francisco 49ers game, they look terrible. Those cornerbacks look terrible. I watched a good chunk of that game because I did have some shares of Carolina defense last week. So I was watching it, and Blaine Gabbert was looking like a young Matt Ryan over there. I mean, I know Matt Ryan's not the pinnacle of quarterback play, but still, I mean, Blaine Gabbert looked pretty good going up against the Panthers defensive backs. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on Bradford yet. He did crush his hand last week as well, so who knows how he's feeling with that. But it's not really where I want to be looking this week. I was on Diggs last week, but Green Bay is a completely different game, and I like Carolina, and they're playing at home. The only thing I could use him for is on DK for those PPR points.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm in love with Diggs this week. I don't know.
A lot of people will. They'll be chasing. A lot of people will be chasing.
Here. Of course.
Killer
for
Cam.
The Carolina Panthers offense here. I don't know if I'm in love. I mean, I do like Kelvin Benjamin at 7,200 on DraftKings. He has seen 21 targets through the first 2 games, scoring 53.9 DraftKings points and 3 touchdowns total there. So I like Benjamin a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's all
Olson.
dependent on what happens with Xavier Rhodes, but even so, like, Benjamin's an absolute animal. Minnesota's defense is way underrated. They're much better than people. I wouldn't say give them credit for. I'd say than people probably even know. They probably just don't even know because who watches Minnesota Vikings games. But they're good, but Cam Newton, I mean, he's a stud. He's the MVP for a reason. He has 6 total touchdowns already. He has 100% of his team scoring. The only thing is that price is pretty high, that 9,200. He's playing at home, so he gets that bump. But I'm really not like on him this week.
Yeah, if you do want to capture some type of upside there, I mean, maybe Cam Newton, Kelvin Benjamin, Greg Olson stack, but it doesn't. I don't know. It's not my favorite.
I mean,
stack.
he's gonna account for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like he'll throw for 1, he'll run for 1, or he'll throw for 2. He'll get his cash game, 20 points or something like that. But I wouldn't wanna be all in on him for upside.
Exactly. Moving on to our next game here, we have the Los Angeles Rams. Los Angeles Rams now.
Well, hold on. Before we move, I just want to
Buccaneers.
just mention Greg Olson, just because he's, I think if there was anyone who would have like a good matchup and be in a good spot, I think it would be him. His price is a little high on FanDuel, but I think he's always in line for a touchdown. Sorry.
Exactly. I can certainly agree with that. He gets the target. The market share is there. I can see Wilson this week. Looking at our next game here, we have the Los Angeles Rams, who say their name properly, going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maybe Todd Gurley here is in play for me.
Tampa Bay is actually better against the run than they are against the pass. They are awful against the pass.
Case Keenum, though.
I mean, they have 2 rookie corners starting, so it's basically rookie on rookie for the most part. If you can get them on the outsides, I mean, I'm not excited about that offense as it is, but I think if there was a week to take a shot on Tavon Austin, this would certainly be the week. And I haven't used him yet this season.
There. I don't know about the double dip, because when I use Tavon Austin, I always like to use the double dip.
Yeah, I mean, if they were at home,
I don't know if I trust this.
Yeah, if they were playing at home versus Tampa Bay, then I would consider that. But on the road in Tampa Bay, I think I wouldn't be on the defense today or Sunday.
Yeah.
But this may be a Tavon Austin week. This may be a Tavon Austin week. So let's try and remember that. I think he's 5,900 on FanDuel. I think I'll have some exposure to him. I mean, they try to use him a lot. He has 21 targets. They run the ball with him sometimes. He has the potential to score in many different ways. And against that secondary and his quickness, if Case Keenum can get one up there for him, he could probably go get it. So go get it, young fella.
Of course, I always want to love Tavon Austin when I can. Looking at the other side of this game here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This Buccaneers, it looks very improved. Up last week. I don't know. I kind of like the spot. Definitely like the spot for him this week. Struggle. They're finally back at home. They haven't played a home game yet.
The big question for this game is Charles Sims. Everyone wants to know if they should play Sims, if he's going to get the work. I think that's something that where none of us really know yet. He has 8 targets on the year. He only has 13 carries, but we don't know what's going to happen. We've seen him bounce around. He's a pretty good player. His price went up 700 from last week, but he does get a pretty decent matchup. You just have to hope that they're really trying to get him the ball. They might just try and pass a lot, but I could see using Sims. What is he on DK?
Sims. He is 4,900 on DraftKings.
Yeah, so he's a better play on DraftKings because he's 6,300 on FanDuel, and I don't think the work is fully guaranteed, but he's certainly going to get a lot of targets in the passing game. I just don't know. I have no idea how they're going to use him running, but he should be able to get like 10 to 12 carries maybe. I'm just not fully
Yeah,
on
I
on
like
him.
Charles.
I'm not fully on him
So-
on FanDuel. DraftKings, yeah, I like him on DraftKings. I'm
Yeah,
gonna be moving most
I like
of my
some the
bankroll.
skill sets that he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like some of the numbers. That he has Earl Sims for odd reasons. It's also worth noting for this game, I forgot to share the Vegas line here. Buccaneers currently favored by 5. Game currently has a total of 42 points. So pretty low there, but again, with guys like Mike Evans, Jameis Winston, Vincent Jackson, who has big play upside, I think the Buccaneers do have the ability to kind of go off tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Or this week. I don't know why I keep saying tonight, but yeah, I think the ability is there for them this week. So that moving on to our next game here, we have the San Francisco 49ers going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Right now, the Seahawks are favored by 10. This game currently has a total of only 40 points, which is not that high at all. Good reason for that. The game's being played in Seattle. Is there any reason to go with anyone on the 49ers offense?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think
Nope.
so there either. So Seattle defense is certainly in play there. And then looking at the Seattle Seahawks offense, there's guys. I mean, Thomas Rawls is kind of in play, but I don't like any of these Seahawks guys. They look good in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, no, I won't have any exposure to this game at all. I mean, if Russell Wilson was healthy, then maybe I'd have some with him and like Baldwin or Lockett, but I won't have any exposure to this game except for Seattle defense. I'll be on them a lot.
Yeah,
I think there's no reason
Seattle
to target San Francisco. Even I don't think it's contrarian. I think it's just dumb.
Yeah. So on that note, we'll move on to our next game here with the New York Jets going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are currently favored by 3 points in this game with a total of 42 as we speak. And Eric Decker are both questionable. Brandon Marshall has had knee and foot injuries throughout the week. Hasn't practiced all week. Eric Decker has had a shoulder issue. Practiced limited fashion on Sunday, but it does say the beat writers over there are saying that he is definitely going to play. Another word there. Eric Decker is a cash game play, always at 6,900 on DraftKings, 7,300 on FanDuel. Get involved in the passing game. Brandon Marshall does play him kind of, but not a whole lot. What are you thinking here, Ben?
I mean, I love this Jets offense. I've been using them all year. I have Matt Forte on every single one of my teams. I have Brandon Marshall on almost all of them, and I even have Anunwa stashed on the bench. So I think this may be an Anunwa game. Marshall and Decker seem a little bit hobbled. We know Marshall is dealing with some leg injuries. I think that Anunwa, he's going to go overlooked this week. I like him and Shepard for value this week. I'm a New York guy, but I definitely see value coming out of them, especially when it comes to DraftKings. You have Marshall and Decker, who last year led the league in fantasy points as a duo and second in targets. So I love this Jets offense. I think you can go with any of them, but for the discount price of $6,000, even though it went up 900, I think Anun was in a really good spot, and he gets the same amount of targets as Decker does.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly a good way to go control Jets, and just in general for DFS. For the Kansas City Chiefs here, Spencer Ware's price has gone down to 5,700. It was 6,100 last week in a lackluster performance against the Texans. He goes up against the Jets team that did have their defense against the Buffalo Bills.
Man, their defense is not looking stout.
Yeah, it's looking pretty poor over there in for New York Jets over there. Guys like Travis Kelce, I think he could take advantage of that. You saw 7 targets last week, only got 5 catches, 34 yards. But I think he might be in a good spot here against the Jets. Also Jeremy Maclin, view him as a cash game play. But I don't know. I think because of some of the standard deviation numbers I've seen and just some other stuff I've seen with him in the numbers, I think he can has shown in the past that he has the upside play in games last season that he had. But yeah, I mean that's really what I'm thinking there for the Chiefs. What about you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd probably prefer to play Macklin on DraftKings. He gets a ton of targets. He gets a lot of catches. I mean, he only has a 50% catch rate so far on 22 targets. But the thing that worries me is we saw Revis getting beat on long balls that this season. That's what's really been his Achilles heel is that top speed. But I think he still might be able to cover those short balls, and that's what Alex Smith really likes to throw. That's where him and Macklin kind of really run their game. So I'd probably pivot over to Travis Kelce. I think people will be on Macklin, assuming that Revis is going to play awful. I think he may have a little bounce back game. I'm not saying he's going to do great, but I'd probably look over to Kelce as a contrarian play. Consider Macklin a better play on DraftKings than FanDuel, but I wouldn't consider him cash on FanDuel, but certainly has some GPP appeal.
Can fully agree with you there on that.
I don't know what's up with Ware. I don't know what's going on with Ware and Charles. I assume Ware is going to play. I don't really like him against the Jets D though. I think there's other options this week.
Exactly. I agree with that there. Moving on to our next game here, we have what I'm going to call my sexy shootout game of the week. We have the San Diego Chargers going up against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are currently favored by 2.5 points right now, with a game that features a total of 51 points. Chargers are projected to stay very close in this game, going up against a very poor Indianapolis Colts defense that just not been good at all. Tate Davis, definitely missing him there. Antonio Gates is questionable right now with a hamstring injury. He didn't practice on Thursday, and again, like I said, he was questionable. And if he's out, then Hunter Henry, who's a rookie, would be the guy who comes in for him there. And I liked Hunter Henry a lot at Arkansas in several college football DFS contests. RIP DFS college football.
Hunter Henry, huh?
But yeah, I do. Yeah, I do like the tight end spot. I like the tight end spot for the Chargers. Wherever they go there, depending on where that injury situation goes. And then, I mean, Travis Benjamin's going to be extremely chalky at 5,200 on DraftKings,
for
on
sure.
FanDuel, but for good reason too. I mean, he's seen. I mean, he didn't see a ton of targets, but he got 2 touchdowns last week.
I mean, he's caught 13 of 14 targets, so he's being very efficient. And we know Philip Rivers is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. So if he keeps looking his way, he's certainly in a prime spot. I like Terrell Williams a lot. I used him last week. He's got 11 targets on the year, which isn't a ton, but with Woodhead out and Keenan Allen out, I think his usage is going to increase a lot. They expect a lot of him. But man, on the other side of the ball, this guy Andrew Luck's throwing the ball 87 times in 2 games. He has 5 touchdowns. He's losing Moncrief, but Hilton and Dorsett, that's going to be a lot of speed for the Chargers to handle. And I really like that matchup for them this week. The Chargers are a little good against the pass. They're pretty nice. They have Verrett back there, but I really think that the amount of times they're going to throw the ball and the speed that they have with those 2 guys, they're going to be able to make waves. And if you really want to get funky, I think people may be on Dwayne Allen because they expect a shootout here, but don't forget Jack Doyle had a 2-touchdown game, and he has 9 targets to Dwayne Allen's 10. So he's gonna be sneaky, and he's 5,000 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, I get your point there with the tight end situation in Indianapolis, but one of my favorite stacks this week, if not my favorite stack, is going to be Andrew Luck, Dwayne Allen, and T.Y. Hilton. For whatever reason, I don't think T.Y. Hilton's going to be that highly owned this week, and he has seen 23 targets in his first 2 games. I mean, as far as converting that into DraftKings points, he really hasn't. 13.9 DraftKings points week 1 against the Lions, and 8.1 DraftKings points week 2 against the Broncos. Understandably so, but still, the targets are there. He has seen double-digit targets in both of the games so far.
Yeah.
And with no Dante Moncrief, that's not going to stop. That's only going to continue.
Right. The only thing that worries me is the catch rate is so low. He only has 10 catches on 23 targets.
Yeah. I mean, that is the case, but at the same time, that comes with, half of his target, a little under half of his targets coming in a game against the Denver Broncos. I think that's where you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt. He caught 4 of those balls on 11 targets, but again, I understand the worry because also in week 1 against the Lions, he only caught 6 of 12 targets.
Yeah. He remains a little bit more GPP in my eyes.
I don't know. I don't see where. I don't know. I just love T.Y. Hilton this week, so I think that's kind of my bias kicking in there. Speaking of my biases, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, my Philadelphia Eagles that I hold very dear. Look at this. Right now the Steelers are favored by 3.5 points in a game that features a 46-point total. I don't know, for this Steelers offense here, I can definitely rock with Antonio Brown, E600. The public might be off of him this week just because of the bad game he had last week at 9,900, only scoring 7.9 DraftKings points. Jesse James, I like the spot for him a lot last week, but only saw 5 targets. But at 3,500 on DraftKings, can certainly get behind that. And then D'Angelo Williams, can't ignore him. Ran the ball 32 times for 94 yards, and then had 5 targets, 4 catches, and a touchdown last week to score 23.2 DraftKings points. He's 7,500 this week on DraftKings, so.
Yeah, he's 8,800 on FanDuel, but man, he has 68 touches over the first 2 games. He's had 14 targets. The guy's just doing it all. They're getting as much use out of him as they can until Bell's allowed to play. So they're going to keep running it up with him. Philly sucks against the run. They're going to keep pounding it in. He already has 2 rushing touchdowns and a reception touchdown. I like them a lot, much more so than on the other side of the ball. Even though Ryan Matthews is 6,600, I think that Pitts, they're really good against the run. They're probably going to take a big lead in this game, so they'll be trailing, and Ryan Matthews only has 1 target on the season. So I don't like that side of the ball.
Don't do this to me.
I would say that I could definitely see a little bit of Jordan Matthews. Carson Wentz has been playing pretty good. He had a much better game last week. He's had over 70 pass attempts. He has 3 touchdowns, but the only person I would play is maybe Jordan Matthews as like GPP PPR, but he does have 23 targets.
Yeah, there's certainly some reasons to get behind this. Zach Ertz is questionable for this week. He didn't play last week. Hasn't practiced all week this week, so I think maybe Trey Burton would be the guy you might want to look at for an Eagles tight end. But
yeah, him and Jesse James are still minimum price.
He knows when Carson Wentz is only at 5,500 right now. I just love Carson Wentz, right?
Of course you do.
Of course.
That's a better play on DraftKings. He's 7,200 on Philly. He's definitely going to be throwing the ball a lot. And I could I could see him to Trey Burton and Jordan Matthews stack on DraftKings. I'm not going to be on it on FanDuel just because I don't feel like Carson Wentz has the touchdown upside that I would need for the GPP win. So I could definitely see some merit to the DK stack.
Oh yeah, there's absolutely no reason to use Carson Wentz on FanDuel, especially if he's 70. But at 5,500 on DraftKings,
For sure.
absolutely.
For sure.
I am taking that situation to the bank all day, every day.
I would as well.
Love the spot for in there. And then Darren Sproles. Not a lot of people are talking about it, but like he does get. I mean, obviously last game was kind of an anomaly situation. He only saw 2 targets, caught a both, but he only saw 2 targets. But dating back to last season, in most of these games here, he's gotten at least 5 targets. He's 5 targets a game. So I don't know. I mean, certainly worth a look. But yeah, I mean, I can understand the qualms you might have about this Eagles offense going up against the Steelers defense here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so
I'm not on them that much. Even though their wide receivers have good matchups, I would really only be on Jordan Matthews.
Exactly. Moving on to our last game of the slate here, the Sunday Night Hammer. We have the Chicago Bears going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Right now, the Cowboys are favored by 7.5 points in a game that has a 45-point total. Looking at this Bears offense first, Alshon Jeffrey is questionable for this week. He missed practice today, was limited in practice on Wednesday, is dealing with a knee problem. He got kind of whacked around last week against the Eagles on Monday Night Football. So did the Bears in general, but that's just me talking there. But, I don't see – I mean, if Alshon Jeffrey is out, Kevin White obviously gets a huge bump at 4,000 on DraftKings, 5,900 on FanDuel. He does get a huge bump there. I mean, Jeremy Langford, I don't trust the situation against the Cowboys. The Cowboys play at such a slow pace that it kind of makes the opposing offense unplayable, in my opinion. So I'm just avoiding this offense outright. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, Brian Hoyer, he's not going to be able to do too much against Dallas. On any other typical day, I probably would choose Brian Hoyer just because I like him. I think he's a decent player, and he's Brian Drew from draft day. So I would love to play him if I could, but Dallas isn't the right matchup for him. I don't see really anything I like on the Chicago side. I wish Jeremy Langford got more targets. I would want to play him, but there's nothing that excites me there at all. On the other side of the ball, though, I could definitely see some low-owned upside over there.
Oh yeah, I mean Des Bryant, Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's up to 5,700 now. Maybe even some Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, this Bears defense is not good.
And my man Cole, my man Jason Witten. I don't like the Cowboys in general, but man, for fantasy purposes, they're looking decent with Prescott. You got Jason Witten with 18 targets, Cole Beasley 18 targets. Like these are guys that are real value plays. Especially you got Cole Beasley on DraftKings. He's a great play. I mean, FanDuel, he's not going to be touchdown dependent for you, but on DraftKings, man, he's almost a cash play.
What? I mean, Dak Prescott, I think, is a cash game play.
No, I'm saying Cole Beasley.
I don't know why I had Dak Prescott on the mind.
Yeah, Cole Beasley. I mean, man, they're just peppering him. He has the most catches on the team. He has the most targets on the team. Like it's crazy that you're using Cole Beasley that much. Like it just blows my mind. But I guess Dak Prescott just feels like he has his own little Wes Welker.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with Cole Beasley. I mean, he's only 3,200 on DraftKings.
Yeah.
He's seeing 9 targets per game in the first 2 games of the season. I mean, and to 4x his value, he only needs to score 12.8 points. So yeah. I love the play for Cole Beasley this week.
I mean, 6 catches, 70 yards per week. He's been averaging 13 fantasy points per game. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. I'm loving this Cowboys. I mean, I don't want to say that.
I had Cole Beasley in cash last week on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that I like the Cowboys because I don't ever like the
Right,
Cowboys.
right.
But I am positive of their position. That is what I can say of them. I am positive of
Brissett
their
just threw a
position.
touchdown.
Oh no.
Who caught it? Probably Gronk.
Let DFS Twitter erupt.
Now, if you go on this DK Live app, it tells you like everything that's
Oh,
going
Jacoby
on.
Brissett wrong.
Oh, he ran it in, huh?
He ran it in for a touchdown.
It's funny because I'm pretty sure he was drafted higher than Prescott was.
Yep. Yes, he was.
Wow, interesting.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us
Yeah.
for this week, guys. Ben, I have had a very good time doing the show with you tonight. Thank God my internet connection held up for tonight because I was upset last night that I couldn't do the show with you. So tonight, I'm very happy with what we've done.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on as always. This is great. I would love to get our timing down for once. So today we started on time, which was great. So moving forward, we try to do the same thing. But once again, I love having you on here, and I love going through the slate with you. So I think we got some really valuable info. And if you want to purchase the sheets, go on dailyrotosharks.com.
Yep. Yeah, go there. I love the projections they're putting out on the site. They've been very helpful so far this season. So yeah, go out on the site and purchase those.
All right, take care, guys.
Yep, good luck in your games this week, guys. And if we're not winning all the money, we hope you do.
Yeah, peace.